It had been a day of getting ready. Katie discovered that even though you think you left your shoes in your closet, they could be in the front hall. Orbie found out that even though you want to eat your breakfast quickly, sometimes it goes down slowly. And they both learned that when you want to shake your change out of the piggy bank, all the little coins come out first. Orbie was very excited today. They were going to the train museum. Katie, I have to say, really wanted to go to the dinosaur museum, so she was a bit disappointed. Every time Orbie tooted that it would be fun, Katie felt a whole lot like it wouldn't. As they got out of the car at the museum, they saw a huge locomotive. That's another word for train. The train wheel was so big, Orbie came up less than halfway on it. He did a spin of joy. Katie looked at that huge wheel, and she didn't feel too excited about it. As they headed toward the door of the museum, Mom reminded her it had been Orbie's turn to choose. Katie sighed. Trains were boring. Once they got inside the huge building, even Katie had to smile. The trains were towering above them. There were red, yellow, and green old ones, and shiny silver new ones. The first train was long. They had to look away down to see the red caboose at the very end. The caboose was a car at the end of the train. Orbie knew the conductors used to swing their lanterns from the back of the caboose, so the station master could tell the end of a train had passed the station. Conductors were the people who worked on the train. Katie was thinking trains were only fun if you were taking a trip on them, when a man popped out of a door on the side of the train and said, "All aboard!" Orbie looked around. Nobody looked like a board to him. Dad and Mom leapt to action. Dad took Katie's hand and reached for Orbie, and they all raced for the steps on the train where the conductor was waving. Although in a silly way, Katie was trying not to have fun at the train museum, she giggled. Especially when the conductor asked where their luggage was. Dad helped Katie climb up the great big steps and into the train. Orbie was so excited, he did a backflip, which made the conductor laugh. He told the family that they would just have to pretend to put their suitcases on the shelves, and they all did. Dad and Orbie pretended to have a huge, heavy trunk. Even the conductor and Katie helped them with it. Then he showed them a little tiny washroom. It was so small that you had to close the door to move around inside. The conductor asked them to please take their seats. There were rows and rows of seats for the passengers, and they found one place with 4 seats facing each other and sat down. The conductor told them he'd need to see their tickets. Dad handed everybody one of the tickets that he'd bought to enter the museum. The conductor punched a hole through each ticket and gave it back. Orbie peeked through the hole in his ticket. As the conductor put away his hole punch, he asked if they would like to see the sleeping cars. Katie and Orbie were out of their seats in no time. Katie, I have to say, was starting to have a whole lot of fun at the train museum. The sleeping car had a long, narrow passageway and a lot of doors. The conductor explained passengers slept here if they were taking a very long trip. They peeked into one of the little rooms and saw a bed pulled down from the wall. Mom told them sleeping on the train was wonderful. The clickety-clack of the rails and the motion of the train kind of rocked you to sleep. With a chuckle, the conductor invited them to see the caboose. Orbie zapped right in behind him. He knew the way to the caboose. He hurried right through it to the little platform at the back. When Orbie was outside, he pretended to wave a lantern at the station master. Katie pretended to wave goodbye to people. They were about to climb down when the conductor mentioned that perhaps they had missed the best part. Katie wondered what that was, and he said, "The engine." In seconds, they were climbing up to see the engine. There were hundreds of buttons and a huge brake and a window. When Katie and Orbie looked out of the window, they realized they were up very high. The engineer could see a long way. Dad loved it, but he really wanted to show Orbie and Katie the old steam engine. The conductor pointed to the very next train. The family thanked the conductor for a great trip and jumped down. Orbie and Dad raced around to the engine and climbed up. It wasn't quite as big, but it was high. Mom and Katie hurried behind them. There wasn't a whole lot of room in the engine. Dad pointed out that the trains nowadays run on power, but in the old days, they ran on manpower. Katie and Orbie looked at each other. They weren't sure what Dad meant. Dad rolled up his sleeves. He told them it was very hot in the engine room. He picked up a shovel and opened a little door, and he told them a man had to stoke the fire that created the steam. The steam made the engine go and made the wheels turn, which made the train move forward. He pretended to shovel the coal in through the little door. Somebody else had to drive the train. He plunked Katie into the chair. It was high up, and there was a long rope with a handle on it. It was attached to the whistle that told people the train was coming. Katie pretended to blow the whistle as Orbie pretended to stoke the fires. And Mom and Dad pretended they could feel the train moving. Dad fell off to one side and asked Katie to watch how she took the corners, and that made everybody laugh. They looked at all kinds of trains that day. Katie ended up having a terrific time. They even ate lunch in a restaurant that was an old train car, and a waiter dressed like the conductor served them. At the end of the day, the whole family agreed that they'd like to visit the train museum again. And I just know, if you get a chance to visit a train museum, you'll have a great time, too. Just like Katie and Orbie.
Did you know? Water conservation is very important. That means taking care of our water supply by not polluting our lakes, rivers, and streams, and not wasting water. One way to conserve water is to turn off the tap when you're finished with it. I said turn off the tap when you're finished.